What's up, God Speaks? Welcome back. We are now in chapter 27. Okay, I'm so excited, guys. Look at my notes. Oh, this is the busiest book in my Bible because the other ones are clean, pretty, perky, but it's fine. I've been blessed by this in my personal life. I just hope that you take everything I'm saying. I say this a lot, but really apply it. Read through it, even just reading it, like staying consistent in it and meditating on it. I've seen a huge change. There's this post I saw on Instagram. This guy was squeezing out water from a sponge, and he was basically saying, I'm paraphrasing, he said, a sponge can only release what it's soaked in. Ponder that thought. Okay, let's get straight into it. I am going to do verse by verse. So verse 1, do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. So here we're speaking about presumptions. Our job is simply to steward today, what we have today, the time God has given us today. We often speak about stewarding relationships, finances, but time also, the time God has given you. What do you do with it? Let someone else praise you, and not your own mouth, an outsider and not your own lips. So your fruit in your life will speak for you. Often self-praise is a sign of insecurity, and also greatness is naturally recognized. Verse 3, stone is heavy and sand a burden, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Sometimes carrying the burdens of foolish people can emotionally drain you. So you also need to learn how to steward your peace, but also, I love that the Bible speaks about this, boundaries. I am going to mention it again in a later chapter, but boundaries. Verse 4, anger is cruel and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Jealousy is an attack on your identity. So it's a very dangerous thing. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. So correction. Visible truth saves. Okay, that's true love. 6, this ties in with verse 6, because it says wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. So you want friends that are going to challenge you, that will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Of course, timing matters as well, right? Be emotionally intelligent with things like that. I think I spoke about it in the previous chapter. Know when to say what you need to say. If someone is hurting right now, like, calm down. Like, right at that point, they probably need comfort. So yes, please, everything I'm saying, context matters. And yes, all of this will bring growth. Okay. Sorry, I just saw a message from a friend. Verse 7, one who is full loads honey from the comb, but to the hungry even what is bitter tastes sweet. So it speaks about when something loses its value. So overindulgence, when you have too much of something. So we have to learn also to starve the flesh and not the soul. Okay. Verse 8, like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. So here it's not necessarily speaking about home in a natural sense, but when you leave home, obviously you're leaving home from, in a very generic sense, you're leaving rent that's being paid for you, food you're being taken care of. It leaves you vulnerable when you leave. And so that's the literal sense, but it's also speaking about staying where God has planted you until he tells you to move. And it doesn't always have to be a malicious thing when he tells you to move. Verse 9, perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. So wise friends are like a sweet perfume. So when you spray perfume, it kind of permeates the atmosphere as well. So the types of friendships you have can change the atmosphere of your life. Verse 10, do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to a relative's house when disaster strikes. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. So this speaks about the value of old friendships. Love that. But also it speaks about how loyalty goes across generations, and you have a choice to either honor those relationships or not. Verse 11, be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. So when you don't honor people, when you aren't wise, you're bringing shame not just to your spiritual parents, but also to your earthly parents, right? Your natural parents. So spiritually speaking about, I know most people don't like that word, but we're basically speaking about the people that care for you like your church leadership. The prudent see danger and take refuge. So here we're speaking about discernment. But the simple keep going and pay the penalty. So wisdom looks ahead, right? But fools often react. Wisdom is fools react, but the wise anticipate. So it's both situationally and in a very general aspect. So your life choices, if there's, for instance, I can't think of a good example, but if there's a leaky roof, for instance, do you react? Do you think ahead? Or like in general, there's always going to be problems. We all know this. Hashtag adulthood is the worst hood. Sometimes anticipating that what problems to fix first. You get what I'm saying? You get where I'm going with this, obviously. But yeah, don't just react. You see someone fighting, react, like anticipate, like, okay, how's this gonna end? You know what I mean? So not just in relationships, but in general, in the general aspects. Verse 13, take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger, hold it in pledge if it is done for an outsider. So you want to be very cautious with people who make reckless promises, right? Especially with money. I'll pay you back. When you especially if it's not a need. Like I can't be, okay, I'll get to that. Or people who gamble with responsibilities. I cannot be saying, yo, I don't have money to buy this chocolate. I don't have money, and I'm speaking to myself as well. So please don't feel offended. But that's not responsible. It's not responsible because now that's you gambling with responsibilities, and now you're making reckless promises because are you relying on the fact that, oh, I'm gonna get paid at the end of salary, that's fine, or are you relying on just hope that no, I'll give it to you, whether or not you'll do it? It's reckless, okay, because you didn't plan for it. We are on verse 14. If anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. Here we are speaking about timing. Even something good that's being said, good wisdom, if it's done at the wrong time, it can come across as annoying. Verse 15, a quarrelsome wife is like a dripping or leaky roof in a rainstorm. So constant conflict in the household. It goes on. Restraining her is like restraining the wind or grasping oil with the hand, right? So here we're also speaking about emotional intelligence. The way you act will like affect the atmosphere that you're in. And your atmosphere is often a reflection of your inner world. I don't know if I'm the only one. I've heard people say this a lot, but sometimes, like, if maybe you have a dirty room or whatever else is chaotic in your life, that's often an inner reflection of what's going on inside your heart. Maybe you're feeling, anxious, overwhelmed. So it kind of also translates to this in a way. Your atmosphere. 17, very infamous scripture. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So you become those around you. But what I also like about this analogy, think of a sharpener. To create that growth, to sharpen your pencil, there's friction, right? So it often shows that growth requires, or where there's growth, there will be some sort of discomfort. You trust I know that. The one who guards a fig tree, this is verse 18, will eat its fruits, and whoever protects their master will be honored. So your diligence brings reward, but there's also faithfulness in the small that you can give. Verse 19, as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects their heart. If you want change in your life, a drastic change in your life, you have to start with your heart. You have to change your heart. Verse 20, death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are human eyes. So death and destruction, what we know about that, if you look at history, it's endless. Showing that, so that's the analogy, to show that desires are also endless. You can't wait for a moment when you feel like, oh, I won't desire X, Y, and Z. Even if you stop desiring the one thing, you'll desire the next. It's just human nature, unfortunately. And this is where discipline comes in. So you have to be wise with that. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. So when you want to check your character and your growth, you can often see that by how one handles compliments. 22. Though you grind a fool in mortar, grinding them like grain with a pestle, you will not remove their folly from them. So some people just refuse transformation. They just refuse it. So yeah, this is basically saying that wisdom is not an intelligence issue. It's a heart posture. Deep, eh? That's really deep. Oh, that's so deep. I should probably title this way. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all. I'm going all the way to the end, but it's basically saying that pay attention to what's sustaining your life. The word of God, worship. Pay attention to those things and do them. Okay? And if you can read the rest of the verse, the chapter, I'm not going to read it, but it's basically saying I'll say an extended metaphor for how neglect destroys, but diligence brings multiplication. Diligence multiplies. And that brings us to the end of chapter 27. Guys, I'm so excited. I think the best, or my favorite, surprisingly, was verse 30, chapter 30. So that's why I'm really excited to get them. And that brings us to the end. Remember, God speaks. Are you listening?